The followed by the Spanish period, when the Spaniards came to the Philippines, the concept of encomienda, royal land grants, was introduced. Okay? So these are just a few of the things that I still remember. But I memorized the period of administration because it is also important in one of the profession that I have a license wherein in the environmental planning. This is very important because we also deal and talk about the distribution of lands there. So that's important for us to know. Likewise, we practitioners in the real estate service, it's important also to know the background and the history of real estate titling in the Philippines. And for us to comprehend what went through and what are the important laws that came about in the titling in the Philippines, it's also important for us to know the period of administration or which are important to land ownership. Okay? So during the Spanish period, after the Spanish period, where we have during the Spanish period, the encomienda, royal land grants, then it was followed by the first Philippine Republic. So the first Philippine Republic, it was when the first Philippine Republic was established in 1899, when General Emilio Aguinaldo declared in the Malolos Constitution his intention to confiscate large estates. So from there, you will already understand why the first title was registered in Malolos, Bulacan. Okay, so that's that information contributes to that history. Okay, so during his term, and in which we call that large estates were called so prior lands. Okay, then after which we have the American period. So during the American period, it is where the land distribution happened, as we have those most important laws that we had, like the Philippine Bill of 1902, wherein it set the ceilings on the hectareage of private individuals and corporations may acquire, no, in terms of the lands that they may acquire, including that of the most important law that we practitioners must understand and must know, which is the Land Registration Act of 1902 or Act number 496. Diba? Kung mapansin nyo, in most of our learnings, palaging si Act number 496 as the pioneering law in the registration of land titles in the Philippines, as that was named after the Torrens system. So it provided us for a comprehensive registration of land titles under the Torrens system. And other than that, there are still many laws. It was actually during the American time where we had this land distribution, and that we had a lot of laws that were implemented. So we have as well the 1903. In 1903, we have the homestead system and the tenancy as well. And the Torrens system is actually the most distinguishing accomplishment during the American period of time, as we had this distribution of lands to the private. No, now after the American period, then followed by the Commonwealth period, and it is during this period where Commonwealth, its President Manuel L. Quezon espoused the social justice, where we had also in this period what we call the significant legislation enacted during the Commonwealth period, which is the 1935 Constitution. So after his term, so yun lang yung medyo significant items that I still remember on this period. Then of course, we had this Japanese occupation. So kung maalala nyo, maraming din during the period of Japanese, no, where we call it the era of Hukbalahap, no. It was the Second World War II started in Europe in 1939 and in the Pacific in 1941. So during this period, the Hukbalahap controlled the whole areas of Central Luzon. The landlords who supported the Japanese at that time lost their lands to the peasants, while those who supported the hooks earned fixed rentals in favor of the tenants. Okay? Unfortunately, the end of war also signaled the end of gains acquired by the peasants. So after the Japanese occupation, of course, dito na yung period where we had all the history of most of us, where we can already recognize the leadership of the Philippine Republic, where we had our tawag dito, President Manuel Rojas in 1946 and 1948. Kaya mapansin nyo, prior to this, the Philippine Republic, maraming mga records na wala sa atin eh. Maraming mga records ang nawala. Not only in the titling system that were started by the Americans, kaya medyo nagkagulo-gulo yan. So, it contributed to the conflict, to the claims of ownership, and a lot of things, no, after that. So medyo hindi pa rin tayo fully naayos. So if we will try to go back into the history, why it's really very important for us, why I am discussing this is because we are really facing a period wherein we should recognize this change, and we should not allow us to be behind each countries. And I will mention certain instances wherein because we are too slow, and we were taken advance of what we are experiencing in the internet, then suddenly we are being forced to accommodate it, just like the experience in the cybercrime law. Take note, we are all been using internet, and then the cybercrime law came late than before the commission of all crimes over the internet. So palagi na lang tayong behind. Okay? So how can we help and contribute onto this? And why is it important to have this transformation? Okay? But I will continue on giving you some backgrounder so that we would know how far we have come up with all these changes to secure land ownership in the Philippines. Until now, some of you may not be aware how land is being distributed now. If you will only know these problems and how lands were being converted into ownership, or not even converted into ownership as they are not possessing any titles, no? But how these are being occupied and being taken by some businesses, no? Some businesses are even occupying it without even paying for it, not even having it for lease, no, but they're occupying it. But these are beyond to this information were not open to anyone, okay, unless you are there. So you will understand why are this information are not being exposed. So then we have this important laws during the President Manuel Rojas in 1946 and 1948, wherein we have this Republic Act number, the early, pansinin nyo, when did we start counting the laws that we had, like the RAs, the number of RAs, you will notice how many laws that we have if you try to account for it. So from the period, during the time of the early Philippine Republic, we have the early numbers of the RAs. Unlike now, we are already counting into the number of 11,000, now going to 12,000 laws. So imagine mo kung ganong kadami na yung laws that we have. Okay, so we will proceed why these laws are, and this information is really very important for us real estate practitioners. So the RA 34 established the 70-30 sharing arrangement. That is one of the most important in during the time of Manuel Rojas. And another one, I think, is the EO 355, where it replaced the National Land Settlement Administration with Land Settlement Development Corporation, yung LASIDECO. I do not know if you've heard about that. And after the time or the period of President Manuel Rojas in 1946 to 1948, we have the period of Ramon Magsaysay, no? Ramon Magsaysay in 1953 to 1957 enacted the laws pertaining to abolishing the LASIDECO. So it was prior to Ramon Magsaysay, we had this Manuel Rojas, where he had this particular law, then inabolish naman niya to. Now, during that time, these are the most important tawag dito, the laws that we have in the land ownership. And then, followed by Diosdado Macapagal. So, yung senior na ito, yung magulang yung father ni our former President Macapagal, no? And 1961 and 1965. And he enacted during the term of Macapagal, Diosdado Macapagal, one of the most important law where in the ownership of land is they abolish it, the Republic Act number 3844 in 1963, no? Hindi pa ako pinanganak niyan. Marami rin sa atin, hindi pa siguro pinanganak. Okay, this is the agricultural land reform and abolish the share tenancy and institutionalize the leasehold. Set also retention limit at 75 hectares. No, this is one of the most important. So you can see during the early period of time, marami pang individuals that owns big tract of lands. But nowadays, since population is growing, so it's also important that these particular lands are distributed equally. But we are, there is a reason why it's not being distributed equally, or being distributed as we grow older in the years. Then a lot of what do you call this? We may not even think or consider the young generation could afford to still buy these properties, and it will be only in the hands of the few. Okay, so after ng time ni Macapagal in 1965, then it was followed by the father of our present incumbent president now, which is who is President Ferdinand Marcos, the senior, in 1965 to 1986. Ang tagal, di ba? So tingnan nyo, ilang taon nyo, 1965 to 1986. That is 21 years. Kaya nung panahon, kasi ako pinanganak 1966 eh. So nasa college na ako nung napalitan siya. And I remember that was during the People's Power, doon nasa EDSA pa nga, no? Okay, so what is the most important during the term of President Marcos? He enacted the law of Republic Act number 6389, and that was the Code of Agrarian Reform. And other than that, there's still a lot, and followed by Cory Aquino in 1986 to 1992. And the most important contribution of Cory Aquino during her time is the adoption or the putting into law of the Republic Act number 6657. Yung CARP law sa kanya yan, panahon ni Cory yan. So she's the one who signed that particular law, the 6657. Okay, so after her term, Cory Aquino, then we have the term of, sino yung sumunod na kay Cory? Si Fidel Ramos. Si Fidel Ramos in 1992-1998, anong significant nung panahon ni Fidel Ramos? So ang significant na na-contribute niya, yung inamend lang niya yung certain provisions ng ginawa na batas ni GMA, yung 6657. And there is still other, no? He strengthened the implementation of the CARP law. So yun yung kanyang significant contribution. And I think yung kasi 6,600 hanggang 7,000 yung law na nung panahon ni GMA. So panahon ni Ramos, so nasa 8,000 na yung batas natin. So it was during his term also yung mga batas na 8,000 ang count sa panahon niya ni Ramos. So 8,435. So I remember that because of the environmental planning. The Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act, no, in 1997. And there's still a lot of law, including yung IPRA law, yan. So it was during the term also of President Ramos. And after Ramos, of course, there we have President Joseph Estrada, but he's the president who had the shortest period. From 1998 to 2000. Siya yung may pinakamaiksing panahon. So kaya isipin mo ano naman ang magagawa niya for a short period of time. But what he rallied during his time is era para sa mahirap. That is the only thing that we remember about ERAP, no? His slogan na ERAP para sa mahirap. And after, of course, after ni ERAP, we have Macapagal Arroyo. So next to President Marcos, as the longest in terms of administration term, we have Macapagal Arroyo, GMA, because she had continued the term of ERAP, and in which she had her position as president from 2000 to 2010. So 10 years. So medyo siya yung pangalawang matagal after Marcos. So during her term, important contribution during her term is yung land tenure improvement, the DAR, no? So that's one. Nung mga panahon nila if you notice, from panahon ni GMA, ni Cory, na-approve yung CARP. So yun din yung pinocus ni Ramos until time of GMA. Pero during the time of GMA, if you notice, she was focused to supporting housing. Okay, so these are the significant event that happened during the time of this president. And next after GMA, we have President Benigno Aquino. So Benigno Aquino from 2010 to 2016, the important contribution of the Aquino is also the distribution or the distributed their family-owned Hacienda Luisita in Tarlac. So that's one important as well. So after ni Aquino, it was followed by Duterte. So baka ma-obvious ako dito na Duterte ako, but if you try to look at his the significant contributions when it comes to land, he did a lot, no? Under his leadership, the presidents pursue an aggressive land reform program that would help alleviate the life of the poor Filipino farmers. And he prioritized the provision of support service alongside land distribution. So he did that also. And he directed the DAR also to launch the second phase of agrarian reform. So he continued that. And he awarded more lands, no? Distributed more lands to the farmers, landless farmers. And he even had that Duterte plans to place almost all public lands. Take note, halos lahat ng public lands kulang na lang niya ipalagay niya, or including the military reserve, no? It was during that he wanted all of it under agrarian reform. So you see, even during his term, he placed the 400 hectares of agricultural lands in Boracay under the CARP. So you see, so it was under his administration that DAR created an anti-corruption task force to investigate and handle reports on alleged anomalous activities by officials and employees of the department. So you see, so you will see also the rationale why at times in our country we can only say that we are only very conservative. Conservative in the sense that everyone in the whole nation, the whole nation, we're trying to adapt these significant changes that we are experiencing in the transformation of the technology, but we are always behind. And palagi na lang natin sinasabi kasi madidiscovery na yung corruption eh. Parang palagi na lang ang note diyan, ayaw nilang mag-advance tayo masyado kasi may expose na lahat. Mawawalan na sila. They're afraid, no? So, while it may be a talk of parang iisipin mo, parang something that is being talked about from the grapevine, but when you look at it, there is a real, there's a real thing that you can attribute to those information. Okay, so that's it. Just to give you a backgrounder on the administration, the periods to land ownership. So now, here's the presentation of the content of our topic, wherein this is the outline of what you are expecting for these purposes. We have, of course, the overview of the workshop, objectives and agenda, introduction to the concept of titling revolution and its significance in real estate engagements, the role of brokers. Our roles are actually important in driving the titling revolution through proper documentation. And the importance of proper titling in real estate transactions, the types of documents in real estate transactions. So now, in our workshop, you will not only know and understand it, but you will do it, no? So this, you will be given all this information. And why did we bring it up, or why did we bring up this topic? It's because before we can fully embrace the changes that are rapidly transforming the transaction landscapes, we need to develop our transaction activities. Doon muna, kasi hindi tayo pwedeng mag-advance kung behind tayo in some other aspects. And we know, as real estate practitioner, that's why, di ba, yung mga new salespersons, we are introducing them to the law of real estate service practice, which is the RESA law. And then we are also introducing them to the taxation because, it's important also that we recognize our duties and responsibility towards the government. And in our activities, in our profession, one of the most important thing that we need to do is the documentation. And follows after the documentation is the titling. Kaya yan yung isang pinaka-importante. Unfortunately, we have been in this profession since the early when did we had our MO? But prior to the MO, we have the RA 4824. That is the first real estate law that we had, in which we had it that in 1936. But during that time, it's the trading of real estate that is more important than what we have now as the profession. So during that time, during that early period, we had this the first ministry order. It was in 1980, I forgot, but it's in the early 90s, no? And prior to that, prior to the 1980s, even the profession of appraisal and consulting was also recognized. Kaya nga that's why the licensing of the appraiser came about in 1976 and the licensing of the consultant came about in 1977. So, correct me kung medyo namamali yung aking memory, pero yun yung natatandaan ko, no? Okay, so I'm just giving all this as an addition, as a backgrounder, because before we tend to improve something, it's really very important for us to understand this foundation, okay? So we are coming up with this particular topic because, as I have said, before we can fully embrace the changes that are rapidly transforming the transaction landscapes, we need to develop our transaction activities, starting with brokers or salespersons. So based on our survey, we did a survey. Actually, we should actually put in place not only going into the social thing, but we need also to improve our educational development level. So based on our survey, only 10% of practicing brokers and less than 5% of salespersons are aware of the transaction process. Okay? Imagine, only 10% of the practicing, it's not the total number of brokers that are licensed, because there are also licensed brokers that are not practicing. So this is based only on the active or practicing brokers, 10% of them, and less than 5% of practicing salespersons. So you will see what's the reason behind why there are only a few of salespersons and few of practicing brokers are aware of the transaction process. Okay? So it's important to note that the transaction process is quite different from the sales process. Baka mapagkamalian nyo, why I am saying it's a transaction process and there's a sales process? It's quite different. There may be some similarities, no? And they may be similar in some context, but meron siyang a few differences. So we offered this seminar. Actually, we came about with offering this particular seminar because of a need we did not just have or thought about this, but there's a need. So from there, other than we are trying to cope with being a part of the international standard, we from the result also of a survey. This came about from the result of our survey. So we offer this seminar in response to significant issues. Take note, significant issues, challenges, and concerns that we have encountered in the past 3 months. Actually, we encountered already these challenges, but it's very, very noticeable this past 3 months that there were a lot of a lot of practitioners actually who came to us for our assistance, seeking for our assistance. In fact, just the other day we had two that were filed in the PRC, and another one progresses in the court. Nag-progress siya sa court kasi medyo matigas din yung ulo nung ina-advise ko eh. Sabi ko na kasi sa kanya, gawin niya, pinupolitika pa niya. Naku, sabi ko, hindi, you do not understand that when it comes to money, you should act fast. Kasi pag tinagalan mo yan, wala ka nang hahabulin. At pag wala nang maibigay sa'yo, saan ka pa? Talagang pupunta ka sa korte. Dahil you want to run after it. Then, kailangan mabilis ang aksyon eh. Kasi kung may ibibigay pa sa'yo, hindi masasettle mo yun amicably. So this offering is actually in response to that significant issues that we have encountered in the past 3 months. Take note, ngayon meron pa rin kaming, in fact meron kaming the other day, meron kaming isinampa sa in the past 3 months, and these are from colleagues. Take note, and some are from clients, and most are from the practitioners seeking our assistance. In fact, most of these issues have been escalated to the court or to the Professional Regulation Commission. And while some naman, we're happy to say naman, some have been resolved amicably. And the real estate transaction process, by the way, going back to the real estate transaction process, which is really very important for us to know and understand, it is not just getting into the fund and then offer the project, but it's also important for us to understand what are the steps by step that we need to know. And not only knowing, it's not only knowing, we also found out that it's also very important to develop these skills and bring it up to a higher level where a broker or a sales practitioner could do it. Okay? So now, the real estate transaction process refers to the series of steps. Take note, the series of steps involved in buying or selling a property, while the exact process may vary depending on the location and specific circumstances. Kasi may mga iba't ibang circumstances. Kagaya na lang, palaging actually may nagtatanong sa akin, so, kanina ko ba yun na-encounter? I forgot na eh. Kasi, oo, kanina, nagte-text sa akin, no? So, pinagtsatsaga akong sagutin kasi makikita mo yung word niya parang, ma'am, tulungan niyo na po ako. Yung parang wala siyang matakbuhan. Ini-ignore na ako. Hindi ako binabayaran ng komisyon ko. No, only to find out, minsan talagang, ako naman, parang dumurugo yung puso ko sa ganito, na yung iba, tinitake advantage naman nila yung situation, na yung mga salesperson yung tinitake advantage nila. Although accredited dito, no, dapat we should put into context, not to belittling these people because they are also tao rin sila. We can actually help and guide them, but do not take advantage of them. Alam na salesperson, dahil alam na, imbis na i-guide niya na magpa-accredit, ang ginawa niya, pinagbebenta, no? Hindi naman marunong. Alam mo nga, ang kawawang tao sa kagustuhan lang kumita, sabi niya, ma'am, sa text niya, hindi ko nga maintindihan kung bakit ganun eh. You see? Nakakaawa na we are trying to improve, trying to study, and making ourselves very much educated, and yet, we are trying to do this to our fellow. Parang nakakadugo ng puso. No? So, sabi niya, ang tagal na, parang sobrang dumugo yung puso ko talaga kanina sa kanya na parang tina-try ko ng imagine ako naiyak. Tina-try kong imagine na she is in dire need. Imagine she has 5 transactions, she is not able to get the commission. Kahit pumupunta naman siya sa developer, ini-ignore siya. Imagine, alam niya nga na ini-ignore na 'tong tao, pumupunta sa kanya at hindi nakukuha yung commission dahil pinangalan dun sa broker na ini-snub naman siya na hindi na siya pinapansin. Na alam na hindi nakukuha yung commission, hindi na lang niya desisyonan na palitan yung pangalan ng ay nako, anyway. So yun yung sinasabi kong tini-take advantage naman nila yung situation. So which is hindi dapat ganon. We were given such grace by God to advance ourselves, to know, to be more knowledgeable. And why do we have to use it to take advantage for other people who does not have a knowledge? Diba dapat nga turuan natin, hindi yung magte-take advantage sila, tayo dahil hindi nila alam. Anyway, going back to the nakakaano lang but you know, if we will all become learned and if we will all help each other to understanding and knowing this, and all of us will be aware, even those problems, actually yung mga hindi nababayaran ng commission, ang common denominator nila, na-take advantage din sila ng buyers. Okay, but anyway, that's the issue, no? Kasi kung yung issue hindi mo ina-address, hindi mo masosolve yung problem. So, why even despite the presence of the what do you call this, the authority to sell, despite of that authority to sell presence, they are still not being paid because there are so many things that they forgot to consider. So there are so many reasons why they forgot to also consider. Now, going back again to the real estate transaction, yung sa sales process kasi, it's more of looking for a prospect. Okay? That's focused on looking for a prospect and presenting the product and closing the deal. So that's it. But in the real estate process or real estate transaction process, it's more of preparing and listing the property. So, meaning to say, you involve here the what do you call this? It's more that we talk about this particular process is applicable to the brokerage. So only in the Philippines that we separate project selling to brokerage. But actually, project selling is also brokerage. The only difference why we separate this as a thing, because when you are doing project selling, it complies to another law, which is the PD 957. So meron siyang another law that is being complied kasi masyado tayong hindi tayo kaya kailangan pa tayong may nagbabantay na DSUD para lang masigurado na yung mga developer i-deliver nila yung mga product without shortchanging the buyer. So kailangan pang may ganyan. So to assure that, kailangan nagre-register diyan si developer, si broker, si salesperson, no? So which is came ahead before we had our strict compliance of our profession through the PRC. Okay. So preparing and listing the property, wherein the seller preparation or the seller prepares the property for sale. Okay. Which, if it's a house and lot, may also involve repairs, staging, and determining asking price. Okay. At this stage, listing the property wherein is listed for sale through a real estate agent. By the way, okay, to give you some important definition of term, when I say real estate agent, okay, it's not synonymous to a real estate salesperson. Okay, the meaning of agent is representative of the principal. Okay, so in this context, that brokers are the only professionals allowed by our law to practice selling or brokering real estate. Okay, so by that extent, we are identifying that the agent of the principal is the broker. Okay, because the broker is representing the owner or the buyer in that context. So the salesperson now, because the salesperson cannot represent the buyer or the seller, but only the broker. So who the salesperson is representing now? The broker. So the agent of the broker is the salesperson and the agent of the property owner is the broker. So you see, so kaya Clarify ko lang to, baka isipin nyo yung agent na binabanggit ko, kung hindi siya klaro, yung salesperson. No. The agent that I am referring here, all throughout my presentation, is the broker. Because we know that in our law, the agent of the principal is the broker. Okay, so, and since it's the listing of the property, which is listed for sale through a real estate agent, or by the owner directly, as in our law, the owner can also sell directly, no? As long as hindi siya into business, okay? And after that, after the particular portion of preparing or particular stage where you prepare and list the property, then marketing and showings. So marketing and showings, where marketing, the property is marketed to potential buyers through various channels. Take note, dito pa lang, may technology na, okay? Various channels, such as online listings, yan yung mga common nowadays, signage, okay, and print advertisements, no? So yan mostly yung mga yun na ngayon, signage and online advertisement. And the showings, interested buyers schedule appointments to view the property and assess its condition. Okay? So, pointing out to the showings, actually, medyo behind na nga tayo eh. Timon, sinasabi dito, interested buyers schedule appointments to view the property and assess its condition. And at times, because of technology, sometimes there are also clients whom you present them an image or a photo before they could at times, no, even presenting them the image or the photo, they decide to also buy. So in other parts of the world like US, dahil advanced na sila to protecting also the practice, and not only the practice, to protecting also the money of the buyers or the money of the sellers, then they have this protection of the image. Nire-register na siya. Hindi pwedeng basta-basta kuha-kuha lang. So sa atin, napakaluwag talaga. Kaya tingnan nyo, I am actually starting to implement it. Kasi kapag tinotolerate natin, nagiging practice siya. At dahil nagiging practice siya, ipinapalagay na ng lahat, tama siya. Kasi nobody is trying to call its attention and trying to direct it. So kaya, paano siya mag-i-start? So it will start from us. So the correct practice will actually start from us. So sana nga dapat meron tayo mga forums, may mga tayo para yung mga best practices. Tapos we will also try to do some things and come up with something so that the practice will improve into a better state, no? Now, continuing with the transaction process, we have the negotiation and offer. So during at this stage, the buyer's offer or buyer submits an offer. Take note, kasi kailangan na i-imagine to ng practitioner. Why is this important? Why I'm trying to discuss about the transaction process? Because it's in this transaction process, you would know the important documents that must come to secure ownership until such time that you come up with the titling. Kung hindi yan naiintindihan fully ng practitioner, then how can we come up to advancing into this technology? Hindi nga natin magawa yung basic eh. Okay? So again, continuing with the part of negotiation and offer, wherein the buyer submits an offer. Di ba kung napansin nyo, ang una ko palang binanggit sa first part, preparing and listing the property. So what's important? What are the important documents on that stage of the transaction na madalas nalilimutan ng mga practitioner? Then the marketing and showing. Binanggit ko dun sa marketing and showing na in other parts of the world, like the US, sa kanila yung mga pictures, images, nire-register na yan. Kasi may mga nagiging problema rin dyan na may naging issue din dyan na yung in-advertise, yun yung dinicide ng buyer. The buyer decided to buy the property based on what was advertised through pictures. And then yung pinicture pala, hindi naman yun yung totoong picture. So kaya ngayon, nire-register nila. Meaning to say, there are a lot of problems that comes from the wrong process So that's why they are trying to secure in every step of the process. So now, from the listing, what documents? From the marketing and showings, I think we should also recognize and come up with that documents. And the negotiation and offer, alam na natin kung yan ay down payment pa lang, we know what documents that we have to give to the buyer, or if it's already a full payment, what documents, or if it's just a reservation, what documents. So it is not just that we see these documents being prepared by them without us seeing it or reading it for our clients. Imagine, remember, we are representing our clients, that we should be the one to explain it to them. So it is not normal that we are the one to explain it to them, that we don't understand these documents. Okay, so a buyer submits an offer to purchase the property, including the proposed purchase price and any contingencies or conditions. So on this stage, the counter offers, where the seller may counter offer, negotiating also the terms. It is in the stage where they negotiate the terms. Tingnan nyo, dito may mapupulot kayo eh. In this stage, dito nagkakaroon, nung nag-negotiate na sila, na nag-meet na usually yung buyer at saka seller, dito na nagkakaroon ng potential na problem ang practitioner, ang broker, dahil hindi na secure yung listing engagement. Or maybe may listing engagement, hindi na secure yung conditions dahil hindi na po-foresee or hindi na anticipate yung mga scenarios that may come when the buyer and the seller meets and starts negotiating. You see? Okay. But we will go that. Kasi lahat nung in-address naming issues by the practitioners, we try to assess from where the problem came about. Then we found out it's during the time when the buyer and the seller started to negotiate. So halos na overlook lahat yon. Okay? So how would you know if you do not have that experience? So it is better really to consult. Anyway, consulting does not only come to a client, but consulting can also happen to a practitioner. Okay. So the counter offer, where the purchase price is being negotiated, including the closing date, or included items, including the acceptance and the contract. So there is where you fix all of it. So in the acceptance stage, once the buyer and seller agree on all terms, they sign the purchase agreement. And in this stage, they create a legally binding contract. Okay? And what do you expect in this acceptance stage, where we are also expecting to have some earnest money? So the buyer typically provides earnest money as a deposit, demonstrating their commitment to the transaction. And then afterwards, after that stage, then comes the due diligence and contingencies. So it is the time where the buyer conducts a property inspection to assess its condition and identify any potential issues, and also working out on a financing, where the buyer secures financing and the property may undergo an appraisal to determine its value. The title search as well, a title search is conducted to ensure the property has clear ownership and no outstanding liens or claims. And the closing. By the way, these are the things that are important. And there are so many things. These are just information. But in the workshop, you will learn all of it. You will learn how to do it. And you will know how to identify those pitfalls or those issues, challenges, and concerns that arise that resulted to an issue or concerns afterwards. Okay, so now that's just an introduction. So I will give you a brief of the introduction of the workshop. Okay, so the concept of the titling revolution refers to the transformative changes and innovations taking place in the process of land titling. With the real estate industry, it encompasses various initiatives, technologies, and policy reforms aimed at enhancing the efficiency, accuracy, and transparency of titling processes. So traditionally, the process of obtaining land titles has been known to be cumbersome, di ba? Meron pa ngang iba dyan, inaabot ng 3 buwan, 4 na buwan, 5 buwan, at yung iba pa, mas malala, no? Time-consuming. And other than being it's time-consuming and prone to errors and disputes, the titling revolution, ako, marami rin pa ako na-experience yan, yung sa mga pag-title, yung mga technical errors, nako, that's another thing, ang hirap niyan ayusin. So the titling revolution actually seeks to address these challenges by revolutionizing the way land titles are issued and managed. It involves the adoption of modern technologies, such as digital platforms, and streamlined procedures to streamline the titling process and make it more accessible and reliable. Okay, by the way, pertaining to this overview of the titling revolution, later we will have another speaker, no? Maybe he will talk about from 10 to 15 minutes to speak about or to give some insights about the future of titling in the Philippines. Okay, so here's the overview of the preview of the objectives and agenda. And we have here familiarizing you with the concept of the titling revolution, highlighting the significance of proper documentation in real estate engagements, equipping real estate practitioners with practical knowledge in preparing different real estate documents, and empowering brokers to drive the titling revolution through their role in documentation. So, the introduction of the concept of the titling revolution and its significance in real estate engagement. So, here, the main goals of the titling revolution are, okay? So, just giving you the short brief on it. Of course, the efficiency, and then the accuracy, and the transparency, and the security. And the titling revolution holds significant implications for the real estate industry. Take note, property owners, and other stakeholders. It aims to streamline property transactions, reduce disputes, attract investments, and improve overall confidence in land ownership. Okay? So we started in the land ownership. So by embracing innovative practices and leveraging technology, the titling revolution has the potential to bring about positive changes and advancement in land titling processes. So here are the role of the brokers in driving the titling revolution through proper documentation. So we have the key points to which the broker's responsibility in preparing, take note, responsibility of the broker in preparing, reviewing, and verifying various real estate documents. So if we are saying that this is broker's responsibility, then how could we, if we cannot even do or draft or prepare such documents, how can we even review it and verify these various real estate documents if we don't understand this? So on that workshop, we will teach you about how doing it with ease. In the Philippines, a real estate broker plays a crucial role in preparing, reviewing, and verifying various real estate documents. And that includes their responsibilities to prepare the contracts, to review the document, to do also due diligence, as well as securing disclosure statements, and coordination, of course, with lawyers, and the compliance with regulations, record keeping, and all of it. So we will further discussion on this matter for you to fully understand and appreciate on our 4-day workshop. And other than responsibility in preparing, reviewing, and verifying various real estate documents, the impact of proper documentation on the integrity of land titles and the overall real estate industry. And as well as that, other than the impact of proper documentation, the role of real estate brokers in promoting the adoption of digital solutions. How are we going to come up with it? The electronic signatures and other innovative practices in the documentation. Okay, so we have the last item that we would like to point out to you, the potential influence of brokers in advocating for this. We can actually advocate for this, we real estate practitioners, no? For policy changes, and industry-wide option of titling revolution practices. Okay, so I maybe ending from this, and I would like to introduce to you our uh, speaker to give you a sort of insights on the titling revolution. By the way, yung mga question nyo, later I will entertain it after we have completed. So I would like to give the time from our another speaker to give us a brief regarding the what do you call this? The brief on titling revolution that we would like. Yes. Okay.
Let me give you a brief introduction of the speaker. Our speaker today is a graduate of Ateneo de Manila University in European Studies, major in international business with specialization in the French language. A true blue Atenean raised from his roots, he is also a graduate of BS Real Estate Management and is a licensed real estate broker and a licensed real estate appraiser. Currently, he is taking up his professional teaching certification with University of the Philippines, Open University. Currently, he is the Executive Director of Philippine Center for Real Estate Professional Studies Incorporated, a non-government organization aiming to uplift lives through the education and research sector. He is also affiliated with the Pasig City Assessor's Office as a local assessment operations officer. He is also an active member for his church and his civic organizations. He is recognized as an altar server, a lecturer, and a commentator for Christ the King Parish, Quezon City under the Diocese of Cubao. He is an alumni of ASO, Ateneo Social Services Organization for the Community. He is also a member of the Star Council 12461 of the Knights of the Columbus, North Luzon chapter. His previous volunteer work include being a member in Ateneo Management Association, an officer in Ateneo Junior Market Association, a representative in Sanggunian ng mga mag-aaral ng paaralang Loyola ng Ateneo de Manila, the Student Council, and the program head of TEDx, an organization known for organizing thought-provoking international talks on technology, entertainment, and design. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Carlo Christopher B. Canlas.
Thank you po, admin. Can I also ask one of the admins to share the slides? Mabilis lang naman, mga 10 to 15 minutes, no?
Yeah. Our time is up to 8:30, but it's fine.
Sige po, ma'am.
Oh, okay. He's requesting the to be shared.
Okay na po. Sige. So this workshop is entitled Titling Revolution. By definition, a revolution is a forcible overthrow of a government or a social order or a system in favor of a new system. The new system would inevitably involve digitization dito sa ating titling revolution in our context, which means that local government units like the Registry of Deeds, along with the others, would have to allocate budgets for the digitization of their systems. As mentioned to you earlier, I'm here to give you insights on the possible outcome of the titling revolution, which will start with us, the practitioners. And as we know, the application of things when it comes to digitization is quite slow here in the Philippines. Hinihintay pa natin yung mga ibang bansang mauna gumawa ng mga batas bago at makita natin kung paano ang kinalalabasan nito sa kanilang mga bansa bago natin i-adapt sa ating mga sistema. One of the most applicable technological innovations for real estate is the blockchain technology and its application to real estate. Earlier, you heard about the importance of, sabi ni ma'am, yung dun sa apat. Mentioned ko yung dalawa, yung transparency and security. These two things, blockchain technology is a champion of these. And it is one of the most discussed pros and cons ng blockchain technology. In essence, for those that don't know or aren't familiar, blockchain technology is a distributed ledger with the list of all transactions. It allows for information to be captured in a shared network. Ganito. So each member, meron silang sariling kopya nila nung information. So kung meron kayong accounting book, lahat ng mga miyembro may sari-sariling kopya. But the members must validate and store each update collectively. By doing this, yung mga miyembro, you're always going to be working with the same information, which can provide online systems with one single source of the information. Parang magiging it's going to be dogma or truth to them. Parang Google Sheets kung nakagamit na kayo nun. But it's slightly different because one special feature is that blockchains only allow for data to be added. And once added, it can never, and I mean never, be removed. This feature ensures that the transfer of the digital assets are easily verifiable by anyone, thus making every transaction transparent. Kahit sino pwede mag-check na nangyari ba tong transaction na to? Nandun. Oo, nangyari nga. This means that it's impossible to destroy someone's digital asset kasi sabi natin kanina, bawal daw tanggalin. Pwede lang magdagdag. And kung bawal tanggalin, ibig sabihin nun, every digital asset is going to be unique. Kumbaga sa rarity, 1:1 lang siya sa buong mundo. At least on the blockchain system. This can aid in peer-to-peer transactions, and the use case of this currently is cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Siguro naman narinig na natin yun. Because of the revolutionary technology and its corresponding security na hindi ka pwedeng gumawa ng mas marami pa. Kunyari sa Bitcoin, kung gumawa sila ng Bitcoin, ganitong karami lang yung pwedeng gawin. Hindi katulad ng fiat currency or yung paper money natin na ginagamit ngayon, yung papel na pwede mag-print yung central bank. So ngayon, because of this, 1 Bitcoin today is equivalent to 1.4 million pesos. So the currency itself has value. And it is widely accepted. It's a widely accepted currency in several transactions. Because it's also considered as an asset, sabi ko nga may value yung currency, mas gugustuhin ko pa nga kung ako yung tatanungin ninyo, nabayaran ako in Bitcoin than in cash because of the value attached to currency. Alam naman natin yung time value of money. Dun sa paper money natin, meron tayong inflation, which means may depreciation din yung 1,000 ko siguro. Today, maybe in 10-20 years, baka hindi na makabili ng cheeseburger. Blockchain technology facilitates, as I said, fully transparent and secure data storage. And lastly, yung blockchain, it allows for logic and agreements to be executed automatically. In short, smart contracts na kasama sa documentation and titling natin. Imagine niyo, pwede na palang automatic na in the future, ma-release yung transaction natin basta nagampanan na natin yung kailangan nating gampanan. That's also one application which other countries are looking into for not just real estate, for people getting paid for as long as they are using applications and systems within the blockchain technology. So what are the implications of this? In the future, once the government is actually able to accept or draft processes and legislate laws regulating blockchain technology, yung e-copy natin ng mga land titles can become digital assets instead. And pag nangyari yun, these digital assets are going to be indestructible and undeniable. There will be no need, wala nang kailangan na affidavit of loss, of title, hindi mga court proceedings na can take 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer, para makakuha ng bagong titulo kasi nawala mo, nabasa mo, nasunog mo. So, yun nga, hindi na siya pwede mabasa, hindi na siya pwede masunog, hindi na rin mawawala. Well, we define real estate, diba, as the land and anything attached to the land. Yun yung para madaling matandaan. Another application of technology in real estate na malapit na, or if not, nandito na, is the metaverse. I don't know if you've been reading tech news recently, but Apple's glasses, named the Apple Vision Pro headset, in-announce nila noong June 5, just a week or two ago, is going to be coming out at the end of the year at the price point of, wow, napakamahal, $3,499. What does this mean for us? Yung metaverse, yung VR, yung AR, nandito na. It's here. The metaverse is here. Yung pinag-uusapan natin last year, 2 years ago na sa mga CPD natin, ito na. Once the technology is improved in the near future, pagsuot mo nun, posibleng meron ng bagong features na makikita yung mga kasama ng mga real estate property mo. Virtual reality, or as Apple would like to call it, spatial computing and augmented reality will probably become normal for everyone in a few years. And that means thousands of different applications with assets and with real estate. I'm very sure that in the near future, yung price point na $3,499, this would drastically decrease as technology improves. Parang yung mga cellphone lang natin na dati bulky, mahal, konti lang yung may-ari. Ngayon, kahit less than 1,000 pesos, may smartphone ka na. Cherry Mobile. The same with calls na dati, mahal mga long distance, di ba? Ngayon, libre na. Basta may internet ka. Pwede ka mag-Skype. Meron din here, mga messenger calls. Viber. It's actually in the best interest of these companies na maging libre na yung glasses, the wearable technology na i-release nila by December. Actually, the prototype has been reviewed. And isipin mo yung laptop mo, yung pictures mo, yung pagtawag mo, yung video call mo, lahat sa glasses mo na lang. You can do Word, Excel, do work. Glasses mo na lang. Parang hologram na yung pindutan natin. Because of this, more people and mas gusto nga ng mga kumpanya na bumaba yung price point kasi the more people that use this, their systems, their technology, their platforms, the bigger their revenues. Who knows, diba? Maybe this wearable technology is a way to pay for, if you know Elon Musk, he has a vision that every human being will have a chip either in their brains or in their body. Kasi sabi niya, napakabilis ng development ng AI. To the point where once it becomes sentient or umabot tayo sa singularity, sobrang talino na nila paano tayo makapag-keep up, diba? So we're probably going to need chip implants in ourselves. He's actually applied for human testing already of his chips. Hindi lang nakapasa sa Kongreso ng United States. Syempre, diba, ang hirap namang human testing yung ginagawa mo. It's highly probable that these technologies, will be free for the human race. Siguro in-imagine ko siya as probably a rite of passage na parang pagpapatuli, or maybe you need to have a chip to be considered a citizen of a country, or you need to have a chip na parang baptism into the human race for us to be able to keep up with the advancement of technology and artificial intelligence. And of course, maybe some of us will not have this in our lifetimes, but I'm projecting 20, 30 years. Ganun na. Going back to our topic, currently, while waiting for proper legislation in other countries, there are already transactions of real estate being listed as a digital asset dun sa blockchain. With a company, gumawa sila ng kumpanya that will ensure na pag binili mo yung digital asset na yun, it has a connected physical asset to it, yung real estate. So, pwede nilang i-list yung property, for example, sa United Arab Emirates, yung tao na sa United States at i-list nila, and pwede nilang mabili yon by foreign investors because it's listed there. And the company will be the one to ensure that matatransfer yun to the one who bought the digital asset. Yun na. So may kakabit na physical asset, yung digital asset, which in our case would be real estate. There's actually recent trade shows. There's a Singapore company trying to penetrate the Philippine market. Meron na din tayong dalawang big fintech companies who are racing to create this subsidiary company of theirs, real estate company that would be listing properties the way they've been doing since 2016, since the inception of blockchain technology. So how are we going to adapt to the rapid change in technology when there are still several problems that arise? Sabi nga ni ma'am, dami pang problema. When we are unable to protect the interests of our clients, and syempre, pati yung interests natin as professionals. Isipin natin, may masusulot pa bang benta kung nakagawa ka ng maayos na kontrata? Meron pa bang komisyon na hindi marirelease kung napatupad na naman ang napagkasunduan? The titling revolution, while it has started in other countries, here in the Philippines, it will begin with us practitioners who improve ourselves and our services by capturing and encapsulating our interests with proper documentation. Okay, so it's getting a bit late. I hope to see you either in Ateneo or online in the coming months. Thank you very much for letting me give you this preview. I'll turn you back over to Mrs. Canlas. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much, Carlo. So I just hope you can, anyway, it's a weekend naman kasi he has worked in with the city of Pasig's office. Okay, so thank you very much. I just hope we were able to give you some inputs pertaining to our future in the titling and how our role as a broker, how can we help contribute in our documentation. So before we finally end and have our concluding prayers, sayang wala lang talaga tayong time, no? Kasi actually, tinetext na ako kanina. Meron kasi akong susunod. So, but anyway, I'll just entertain those questions that were put here in the chat box. So, ang pagbasa ko lang, unahin ko yung sa ilalim kasi yun yung mas una ko nakikita. So, true time consuming, yes. Is the usual practice for the buyer and seller personally meet? No. Actually, hindi naman. Usually, yung sa mga big transaction, especially it's from yung mga snub, yung medyo a little bit snooty, they don't actually, the reason why they have their brokers, sometimes they do not want to face they do not want to meet, they are that snooty, just for that sake. So it's not actually the usual practice, especially for high-end markets. So usually hindi nga pinai-involve yung broker if they will face at times. So there are this mga situations. Sometimes naman they had the broker just to introduce a certain buyer, but they don't face them. Sometimes they just want to face the property owner or the buyer, no? But sometimes naman there are people who does not want to face also the buyer or the seller, whichever, but they just want to be represented only by the broker. So depende. So kaya nga usually tayo brokers, even into the preparation of our documents, we need to really know what's in the mind of our our principal. Kaya nga meeting of the minds eh. So we are the one who first initially identify what's in their mind. Okay, so when is the proper time to ask for the documents from the seller such as the TCT? Actually, dapat at this point, ito nga dapat ang pinopokus ng mga association eh. Ito dapat yung binibigay na service. They should come up also with identifying or trying to collate in the entire area of operations, how long will it take to process the title? Kasi iba-iba eh. Different LGUs have different time frame to processing the titles, especially yung nakaka-affect na mga factors sa pagpo-process ng title. Yung kung mayroong marami na pinaprocess sa time na yon, kung maraming pipirmahan si RD. So sometimes hindi siya ganun kadali, no? Depende. At may mga other factors pa, no? So yun yung nakaka-affect dun sa period of releasing the title. But usually, the title should be released, to me, that should be released the earliest, depending pa rin, the earliest should be kailangan hindi tumagal ng between 3 to 6 months, no? But depende pa rin. We cannot guarantee, but you can tell that to especially sa developer. Usually developer sila yung nagpa-process ng pagka-transfer ng title. But if it's going to take long, pwede mo yang i-negotiate eh. Why is going to take that long? Kagaya ako, hindi ako pumapayag, no? I bought a property from an investment company. where it's taking too long. Minsan may mga, alam mo, may mga foul practice pa nga eh. I bought in the investment company. They wanted to save probably the company from certain taxes. Exempted sa tax yun. But they want you to declare, katulad nyo, no? For example ko, nabili mo, wala naman siyang improvement. You're the one who have put the improvement, but they wanted it to be declared with improvement. Hindi ako pumapayag sa mga ganun. Nakikipag-away talaga ako. So, but what about those who do not know their rights? Those who are not really familiar and those who are not really knowledgeable. So, they will just follow. Katulad rin yung experience na yun na actually yung kanina nagte-text sa akin, nakakaawa kasi hindi siya knowledgeable. Imagine, napipilitan na lang siyang pumayag kahit hindi niya naiintindihan. Just because she wanted to sell and have some livelihood. Pumayag na lang siya. Sabi niyo, ma'am, di ko nga maintindihan bakit ganun. Ha? Hindi mo kilala broker mo? Paano ka na-accredit? Sabi niya, ma'am, pinrocess lang. Pero yung broker ko na process hindi sa kanya. Naku, ang gulo. Sabi ko, anyway. Ayoko nang ma-confuse kayo. But these are the things that are happening, no? So, sobrang masalimuot. So, ang ano ko lang is sana ma-advocate natin ang mga issues na to and problema na to na ma-address, no? Hindi yung nakapokus lang tayo sa mga social activities. Sana yung kung paano rin tayo nakakatulong sa practitioners. We are actually the ones who should contribute to putting things in order. And there's another question. PILRES hopefully will have the will to correct the incorrect practices. Actually, I think we will be also getting into that place once everything is in place. Darating tayo doon. Been there po, pahirapan bago. Oo, ang dami. Yan ang isang malaking issue na dapat pagtulong-tulungan natin. Developers, hindi ko naman nila lahat, but there are developers who are taking advantage of this situation na hindi nila naibibigay yung commission, which should not be the case. Yes, I felt the last contract kaya I'm here. Okay. I'm interested online class. Yes, that's it. MO39. Thank you, Celis. That's right. MO39. Oh, natatandaan ni Celis. Mark John Deo. Yes. Okay, Gary. Okay. So, yes. So, I think there's no significant inquiry naman here. Okay. So, that's it. I think hindi pala ano yung time ano. Yung sa church kasi namin meron kaming meeting. So, anyway. Hindi ko na muna sinagot kasi maubos yung oras ko. Should we support PILRES? Current status po kasi is provisional IPO, so hindi pa po sure. Well, the PILRES, okay medyo may halong konting ano lang The PILRES is actually been already recognized as IPO in 2012. So, nung nag-expire lang siya, hindi siya na-renew. So, dahil hindi siya na-renew, status quo. Pero right now, PILRES was already given the provisional status. Ibig sabihin ng provisional status, meaning there are things that needed to be complied. So sa tingin ko naman, if you ask my personal opinion, although hindi naman siya 100%, but if you ask my opinion, since dati na siyang IPO, tapos siya yung pa rin yung nabigyan ng provisional recognition as IPO, then I think the easiest way for us to immediately come up with an IPO is of course, to support PILRES. By the way, so if you would like to join the Pasig chapter, I'm the interim president pa rin, of the Pasig chapter. So you may join if you want. Okay lang, nasuportahan natin kasi this is for us naman. Okay, so by the way, I think kahit na we extended already for 11 minutes, okay pa rin tayo. I just would like to hear something from you. Is there anything that you would like? Actually, I asked the admin kaso it's too late na to come up with something. There may be something that you would like us to offer, just like we plan to give for the advancement and for this development, for particular development of this introduction of this particular topic. We may still continue to have another session over say this 1 hour or 1.5 hour for things like this. And we wanted to hear from you what particular topic or what particular information that you would like us to bring into this table. Okay, yun sana yung gusto namin gawin. But I think since we have naman, I think we have our data on your registration where we can communicate to you as far as your information is concerned, that we can also send you the parang it's a survey form, no? It's a survey form so that we can come up to bringing you another session like this. Okay, so thank you very much. Kung may oras lang sana tayo pa, sana makakapag medyo a little time for but since I have already the schedule, but we will just close na lang the meeting with our tawag dito. We will close it through our closing prayer. Okay, so I hope we can see you in the future, including with our workshop if you would like to study how to write the documents. Kasi yung mga ginagamit usually, yung mga ginagamit na documents parang template. So it's not supposed to be because different clients have different circumstances. So therefore, we should fit in the content of the documents based on the circumstances of our clients. Okay, so let's have our closing prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Gracious Father, thank you for making this day a successful learning experience. As we end, Lord, we ask you to be with us. May your angels stay with us, with our family, and keep us always safe at home and around our environment. Lord, thank you for this wonderful time that we have shared. May all glory and honor come back to you in everything that we do. It is in Jesus' name we believe and pray. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so thank you everyone for being with us, and I hope to see you in our future, and as well as seeing you also in the workshop if you are interested to know how to write these documents that fits to the circumstances of your client. Okay. Bye.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thanks, ma'am.
You're all welcome.